Well, thank you. And you might want to hold your applause until the end and then decide. And there are a couple people in the room who may know some of these stories that I am going to share better than I do. So please raise your hand, correct me if I get it wrong, okay? And Steve and Jen are in the house and are also staff at Dream Center. And I can't tell you what a privilege it is to be in the room with you. And that worship, I mean, I can get really emotional during worship, and I didn't want to because then I thought when I come up here, I might be a wreck. But that was beautiful and really spoke to my heart. So thank you for that. There is nothing like it. So it is wonderful to be in the room with all of you and to be able to share what God has been doing at Dream Center and at Zoe House. And I know Zoe House is the highlight, but I thought if some of you don't know a lot about Dream Center, I'll go through those slides quickly and can share more at another time. But Zoe House is a division of Dream Center. And we say, turning dreams into reality. But our mission is to impact families living in poverty, starting with kids and youth. And we say it like that because kids have no decision-making authority in their lives. They're dealing with consequences of other people's decisions. And so when they are struggling with poverty or generational sin or curses or things that have been passed down, it wasn't their choice. And we want them to know there's hope, that they can start afresh, that God has plans for them and he loves them and he sees them. And we do love adults. Okay, don't hear that wrong. We love adults, but we understand that kids especially need hope. So if you're familiar, our building is downtown on Hamilton Boulevard, and it was an old YMCA built in 1953. There's a whole story about how God provided that building, and it is miraculous. And we couldn't be in a better location to serve, and so we love that. It's 150,000 square feet. It's full, and there's a lot happening down there. So if you ever want a tour, you can come down, and Jen and I love giving tours and sharing what's happening in that building. And every time, almost every time someone is on a tour or walks away from a tour, they'll say something like, "We had no idea. I had no idea what God was doing." So it's really fun to share that. Our core values are to give dignity, show compassion, and ignite purpose. We say it like that because every individual deserves dignity, and not because we say it, but because God says they have value. He created them uniquely, and we want everyone to know they have dignity. I'll share a little bit more about how we do that in a minute. And we want to show compassion. We are not judgmental. We are not critical of where they have come from. We might recognize they're dealing with consequences of some of their decisions, and that's reality, but there's hope. And then the igniting purpose is taking everything a step further to there are opportunities, there are resources, there are things God has for each of them to step into those next areas of life. And I want to take a second here just to thank you for your partnership with Dream Center and Zoe House, and for the items that we've already started receiving items. And when they come in the mail, I'm always thinking, what did I order from Amazon? And because I do have a habit. But it's always fun when it's not something I ordered and it's a gift for Zoe House. So thank you for that. And we believe that it's a team effort, that everything that we're doing at Dream Center and at Zoe House takes all of us. We cannot do it alone. And there are people who pray. There are people who are giving financially, people who serve. But this is a verse I want to encourage you with from Proverbs 19:17. It says, "Whoever is kind to the poor," or in some versions it says, "whoever is generous to the poor, lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done." So I'm not saying I'm not saying the prosperity gospel where if you give, he's going to give, but he does promise that he will bless you, and it may look a little differently than what you had expected, but he will bless you in ways that you can't even begin to imagine. We see it every day. So moving on, along with Dream Center, we've got 4 divisions, and I'm going to run through these pretty quickly, but you're probably most familiar with our shelter. And we have an average of between 125, 150 guests a night. On the 4th floor, which is the daytime floor, lots of natural light. It looks like an IKEA living room. We have a dining hall so they can all eat together. And I'll quickly tell you this part of it. When we inherited the shelter we bought the building from the YMCA. The YWCA was running a one-floor shelter with 60 beds. And after we owned the building for about a decade, it became clear they were having financial trouble. They couldn't continue. And they asked our board if they would take on the shelter, and they didn't take long to pray about it, is what I've heard. They decided they didn't want to put anyone out on the street, so they took the shelter on, and that doubled our annual budget. And then within a few years or a short time, it became clear that just an 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. shelter wasn't sufficient. So then we went to 24/7, which again doubled our annual budget. Then it became clear that just accepting single moms or accepting single women and moms with kids may not be quite enough. They started taking in dads with kids and then whole families, and then 60 beds was not enough. And so it just has continued to grow over the years that we've owned the building, and now we're on 2 floors, so we went from 60 beds in the end of 2019, we went from 60 beds to 125. And I can tell you, if you do the math, you just heard me say we've been averaging 125 to 150 guests a night. Obviously not enough bunk beds, but then we have mats and bedding, and we can spread out. We're not breaking any fire codes. I do have people ask that from time to time. We're not. We have a large building, we can spread out. But the beauty of it is we don't turn people away unless there are reasons with criminal history or things like that where they can't be a part of the shelter. But we are very low barrier, and we want everyone to have a safe place to sleep, to have 3 meals a day, and they can find clothing in the Hope Store, which I'll talk about in just a second. So then above the shelter, this is hard. You can't see much of an apartment in this, but just use your imagination. Above the shelter, we have 3 floors of apartments, 1 to 3 bedrooms each. We call it the Village. And we help families who are looking for that next step. They're really wanting to go after independence. They want to change their lives. They don't want to live in a shelter long term. So they are working on finding a job, finishing a schooling program. A couple of Mays ago, it wasn't this last May, but prior to that, we had 3 individuals in our Village program who completed the CNA program at ICC, and one of them did so well that she was asked to speak at their commencement program. We celebrate when those things happen. Those are huge. Yeah, huge deals. Thank you. I mean, sometimes when they come to us, it's the worst day of their life. You know, they are not sure what could happen next, and they're a lot of times embarrassed and humiliated, and we want them to know that God sees them, loves them, and has more. So in the Village, as the residents apply to be a part of that program, we can tell them that 97% of our residents who've gone through that program don't return to homelessness. Huge deal, and we do not take the credit. Yeah, it is not us. We would say it is all God. Okay, He lets us be there and be a part of it, but He gets all the credit. Okay, so I'm going to tell you quickly about the students. We have about 100 students after school during the school year between the ages of 5 and 18. And then during the summer, we have summer camp, which is intense, okay? They come in the morning, they're there all day, we take them home at night. They do fun things. They go on field trips. They just were at Camp Dallas this last week where they went fishing and swimming and kayaking and all of those things. But they're also working on academics and tutoring and life skills. And we want to make sure they're hearing the gospel message, that they're knowing that Jesus is the one who can transform their lives. And lots of great things happen in the student programs. We have many volunteers who come in and tutor and work with the kids. And the younger students, which you can see a couple of them here, between the ages of 5 and 9, historically, they have just been focusing on homework, academics. Again, you know, we do a lot more than that. We offer a snack when they arrive, a meal before they go home, a lot of life conversations. But then the older students can choose between electives, which are job skills and trades programming. Here you can see small engine repair. We have a male and female instructor in this picture. We've got a bunch of girls in this class, but the students between the ages of 9 and 18 or 10 and 18 can choose each semester one of the electives, and then they go through and they learn some hands-on skills, critical thinking skills, and they may not wind up in a service department at one of the car dealerships or anything like that, but they are learning some skills that will take them far in life. And yeah, it's really fun when I've been down there one time when they fired up a lawnmower that hadn't been running, and there was like a party. And then they wanted to, drive it around the parking lot and, do all kinds of crazy things. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, they should celebrate. And then we have woodworking and carpentry, and they come in maybe never having held a tool before, and they turn it around and start making things like birdhouses and cutting boards and picnic tables and sheds. And they built a cross for Northminster Presbyterian Church, and it's really fun for them to learn those things. We have screen printing, 3D printing, coffee roasting, podcasting, performance arts, an art studio, bicycle repair, lots of different things. And this shows our coffee roasting room, and they learn about the history of coffee, how to roast the beans, and then they go beyond that and learn barista skills. Our hope is that they could step into an internship or an entry-level program somewhere or position. So sometimes it's slow because they may not even have the goal of knowing that they can finish high school. So we want them to go after all of that. Excuse me. So then our community-facing side would be things like the Hope Store, and it's open twice a month for the general public. They can come in and choose lots of things for their families. We have clothing, shoes, household items, bedding, linens, small household appliances, pots, pans, dishes, baby items, you name it, lots of things. And then throughout the week, every week, we have phone calls and emails from the community, from others who are caseworkers or working with clients, and they'll say things like, I'm moving these foster care children. They have nothing. Can we come and shop? Of course. We're not trying to hoard anything. We want it out the door where it can be used the most. And so they can come by appointment, and sometimes there's not much notice, and we're okay with that. Or we try to be, and we try to make it happen as much as possible. Then Backpack Peoria. I think a lot of people have heard about this. It is probably our biggest event, kind of our anchor event every year. It was our first event ever for for Dream Center Peoria, and we give away around 2,000 backpacks filled with school supplies. There are dental exams, school physicals, haircuts, an expo filled with 30 to 40 agencies that have information and resources, and the families have to pass through the large gym to get to the small gym where the backpacks are. And this is where, and we had clear backpacks for the middle and high school students, and then the more opaque ones for the younger kids. It's a fun day. Lots of volunteers make this happen. Jen makes the expo happen, but it is really cool. We even have Bible Bill, if any of you know who he is. He has a cape, and he is a superhero that shares the gospel, and he made wrote a cartoon book that children can understand with the gospel message, and he is there that day. And we go home exhausted, but it is all worth it. We do things like Promise of Hope, Serve the City, all kinds of events. And then our mobile units. Okay, I'm going to show you this picture first about the mobile units, because this captures the dignity piece. This was the very first time we have 4 mobile units that came about during COVID when all the public restrooms were locked. Andy and some of the board members and staff found out that people in the community, individuals in the community, were washing in the Illinois River. We thought, okay, that's probably not really clean. And so Andy started praying, and we believe God gave him the idea, but he started praying and asking, what if we could take services into neighborhoods where people need showers, a haircut, laundry services, and then a food truck, because that's what attracts everybody in. So this is the very first time in June of 2021 when it had all come together. We took them out, and this gentleman came up, and he was clearly unhoused, probably from an encampment. He had long hair down to his belt, long beard, and I remember thinking, he looks like he's from ZZ Top. Now, I know some of you don't know who ZZ Top is. Or he looks like he could be on Duck Dynasty. And he had a skin condition you can see on his arm, but it wasn't really apparent. But this hairstylist, and all of the hairstylists are my heroes, okay? They don't lean away. They lean in appropriately. They listen. They give their focused attention to every person who sits in their chair. And he had 15, 20 minutes tops. He said, shave it off, so she did. But when he walked away, he was beaming. And there's something about personal attention and that voluntary personal touch. We don't know the last time he received a hug or someone touched him without pulling away or hesitating. And there's something so powerful and so mighty about that personal touch. So that brings dignity in ways that, sometimes when I share this, it makes me emotional because of how I believe God does that for us, and then how he gives us opportunity to pass that on. So you can see the hair truck, or the RV, which is our hair salon, has a canopy. It is a toy hauler, so the back opens up. We have 2 stations in the back, 2 in the front, 2 can go outside. Then we have the laundry truck pulls the shower trailer, 4 stalls in the shower trailer, and then of course the food truck. So that is amazing. Every week they go out, they have a set schedule. Word of mouth is key. So people show up. We have to build a trust relationship. A lot of times when they come, they don't know if they can trust us. They're thinking, I'm not getting in that shower truck. There's no way. There is a lock on every door, but they're just a little unsure. And then they might have something to eat. They might pick out some clothing from the Hope store. And I remember hearing this story about one gentleman who was there. He said, well, if I'm getting clean clothes from the Hope store, then I probably should take a shower. So he took a shower and just kept going from there. And then he showed up the next week and we started seeing him regularly. So we love the mobile units. So during the warm months, they're out in the neighborhoods. During the winter months, then we invite people into our building on Wednesdays. We call it Wash Wednesdays. They can come in and receive a meal, clean clothes, all of what and haircut, all of that, like what we do. So there's a lot about Dream, and there's so much more. Okay, so I can't tell you all of it, but close to my heart is Zoe House. And a few years ago, God really laid this on my heart, and I had stepped away from Dream Center for about 7 months. My mom was in hospice, and during that time, I just kept asking God, what's next? What's next? And I kept believing that he was saying a residential program for young moms, because a lot of times I had been at another nonprofit, and young moms would tell us stories of, I'm couch surfing, I'm staying in a toxic environment, staying in an unhealthy relationship, and I'm not sure how I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I called Andy and just asked him, do you think there's a need for this? And he gasped and he said, are you kidding? Of course there is. I've been praying about this for 5 years. Do you think it could be a part of Dream Center? And so we began the praying, the sharing the stories, the dream, the vision, and over the next year, we started just asking God to bring in a certain amount of money. Our board is very cautious and very frugal, and will say, as the Holy Spirit leads, of course, but we would like to have this much money before we make an offer on a property. So we started looking, and God shut the door on what we thought was the property each time. And then over the course of 9 months, which I thought was highly appropriate for a home for young moms who are pregnant, we found this property in Tazewell County. It's a full acre. We have 5 bedrooms. I'll show you a picture of a couple of the bedrooms. And then we have 3 full bathrooms. It was completely redone before we purchased it. Huge kitchen. And then we have an island in the kitchen now. We have a family room where the mamas hang out. This is where we play a lot of games. We have a lot of conversations. This is where we do Bible study. And we are very much faith-based at the house. Now, we will serve any mom, okay? She does not have to agree with us. She has to be respectful, but and they have to sign off that they know we're going to do Bible studies. We are going to go to church on Sunday mornings, and they have to agree with that part of it. But I'll tell you, sometimes, even in Bible study this last Wednesday, one of the moms says, I just don't know about the Lord. She called it the Lord, not the Lord. She goes, I don't know about the Lord because, my life has been really hard. Where has he been? These are good questions. Powerful conversations, and we're okay with that. We would rather have that than them not asking any questions. So then we try to really give them a home environment where everything is welcoming. I'll tell you a little bit more about the program because we are a program, not a shelter, okay? We've had 18 moms in the last 2 years and 2 months. So 18 moms between the ages of 16 and 24. We've had 17 babies born. Pretty incredible. We have 11 staff where they're 24/7. And that helps during the night. Right now, we have 2 newborn babies under the age of 2 weeks. So there are a lot of nighttime feedings. Moms are primary caregivers. We are support. And they know that we are secondary, but one of the moms had a C-section. They both are struggling with some postpartum issues. So we are there to support them in that. And one of the moms this last week said, "Why are you guys so nice? Like, this is not real. Like, this has to be fake. This has to be fake." No one in her life has been reliable. She has been let down so many times. And sometimes they test that. I'll tell you this, this is not a cookie cutter kind of ministry. It is not a neat and tidy, it all is going to go exactly like we planned. Never. Never does a day go. I mean, we sort of plan it, we try, and then God tells us how it's actually going to go. So we learn how to be really flexible. We do have meals around our dining room table. Phones are down, which is a big deal. And phones are also down during Bible study and during church. But we eat together, even if they're not eating. Sometimes they don't feel like eating. That's fine. But we can sit around the table, and there are some really fun conversations that happen there. I'll tell you, we have a classroom in the basement. We have a laundry room I don't have a picture of. This is our first mom who moved in. I'll tell you a couple stories before we're done. But this mom had been sleeping in her car for 2 months. She was 5 months pregnant. She was from Memphis. And we had a staff member lined up to do 5 or 6 overnights a week. And we were so excited. We thought we were staffing. We thought everything, we were on track to open. And then some of the staffing fell through. I thought, what are we going to do? And then this mom came and she applied, and I met her, and I thought, we can't delay. Like, we need to open. And so that first 6 months, I was there 3 or 4 of the overnights every week. And yes, I was tired, but what a gift that was, because I really was able to see, okay, that idea we had does not work. Or this idea is so much better. So we learned a lot in those first 6 months and have continued to learn. But this mama now has a baby who is 1.5 years old. She lives in Peoria in independent housing. She had been down in Lewiston in an apartment, which was really difficult, but she was able to move back to Peoria. She is in college. She is taking courses. She has plans, and she is trying to attend church on weekends and build community. She hasn't had a lot of support over the years. So then we do encourage going to school. So these 2 mamas were our first 2 high school graduates back in the first year that we were open. So we had to have a party. And then after that, shortly after that, one of the mamas wanted a baby shower. So we had to have another party. And we didn't have to. We loved having opportunity to celebrate. And every chance that we have, we want to celebrate. So another thing that we have celebrated is one of the moms on the right was baptized. And I got to be a part of that. Yeah, so cool. Some of the moms have been with us 6 months. They can be there 12 to 18 months. She was with us 18 months. And on the left was the night that we knew that she was leaving the next morning, and we all had to say goodbye. But her life was transformed from when she came in to when she left. I mean, when she came in, she was struggling with addiction. She was angry. So angry over multiple things in her life. Her mom had passed when she was 16, maybe 15, but she had been really struggling to deal with that. And then we watched God soften her heart, change her, and she changed us. And God did in that process. A couple more mama celebrations. The mama on the left just graduated high school this May and just had her baby. The mama on the right, I want to tell you her story a little bit. She came in at 3 months pregnant. She was 17 years old, came from St. Louis area, and she had been in a lot of foster homes. She couldn't even really tell me. When I asked her how many, she wasn't sure, and I didn't press it. but she wanted to be the first of her 9 siblings to walk across the stage and get her high school diploma. So I took her to the local public school. We talked to the counselor. We tried to, set everything up. We registered her. I wrote the check. And then before we left, the counselor said, come in my office. So I went with her in his office and sat down. And the message was, we're so sorry, but you only have 5 credits. You're not a senior. She thought she was going to be a senior. So she was essentially a freshman. Devastating news, because she thought she would have her baby, finish school, everything would be done in that next year. And so she was sobbing. We made it back to the house. We started talking about what are your other options. She could go after her GED. We knew she was really bright, okay? So she started. She was going to classes 3 or 4 days a week. She was working part-time. She was growing, changing, really going after her goals. And then at 31 weeks, she was at work one night, texted me and said, hey, what are you doing? And she worked about a half a mile from my house. And I said, not much. Well, what's going on? And so she got on the phone with me and she goes, I think I need to go to the hospital, having a lot of pain. So I buzzed down there really quick and asked her if I should call 911 because she was having chest pains. That's a little scary. She said, no, it's kind of going away. Let's just go to the ER. So we went to the ER. And in the course of the next few hours, the pain worsened. She was not doing well. They got us to the labor and delivery floor. And within a few minutes of us being on the labor and delivery floor, we had 8 people in that room, nurses and doctors, and then they were rushing her down the hallway. And the baby was born that night. Okay, emergency C-section. She had had a placental abruption, so the placenta had separated and baby was in distress. Later, she said to me, she goes, now, remember, she had deep grief, but later she said, it was so cool. It was like in the movies. She goes, they were running me down the hallway, and within 10, 15 minutes, I'm still holding her belongings on the phone with her sister who's out of town. They have me down in the NICU. They're working on the baby. And the NICU doctor says, okay, we are keeping baby alive until mom can say goodbye. Like, okay. I'm stunned. Not what I expected. This was 6 months in to Zoe House. Did not even, we thought maybe down the road someday something like this could happen. So they bring her out and she is she's in recovery, but they placed the baby on her. They said, take as long as you want. Take as long as you need. They brought in a photographer. They brought in a chaplain. They prayed. They baptized the baby. She sang songs. She sang lullabies. She FaceTimed with family. And then after, I don't even remember how long it was. It didn't matter. But after a time, she said, I'm ready. And I thought, she was brave. She did it with such dignity. And she said, I'm ready. And so they said, when we remove the tube, the breathing tube, this baby, your little daughter named Miori, will pass. And so she was prepared. They removed the tube. They laid the baby back on her chest, and the baby kept breathing. And then the baby made a noise, and the doctor turned to me and said, did that baby cry? And I said, I think she did. So all the nurses froze. They didn't know what to do. We were all in shock for a second. And the doctor's going like this, and they tubed the baby back up. And that baby thrived for 24 hours, survived for 48. And what that gave was such a gift of time for this mom to say goodbye, to grieve, to dress her up in these little outfits, to sing songs, to tell her all of the things she wanted to, can't fit it all in 48 hours, but she sure tried. And then her sister came and we were able to walk that journey. But then we had to have the conversation about, do you want to come back to Zoe House? At that time, we had 2 newborns and a mom that was ready to give birth in about a month or 2 months at that time. And she said, I need to because I know I'll have stability and support there. So we welcomed her back. She was going to counseling, very faith-based counseling, and then she went back to her GED program. She finished it. She passed her exams, her science exam with college scores. We're so proud of her. And then she applied to SIUE for the nursing program. She was accepted. Then a few weeks later, even better, a few weeks later, I heard her screaming in the other room, and I thought she broke a nail. Okay, I did. I'll confess. I thought it was something minor. And so I found her, and she's waving this piece of paper, and she can't talk. And so she hands me the paper, I'm reading it, and it was a letter of acknowledgement that she was being awarded a 4-year full ride scholarship, everything covered, books, housing, classes. Now, part of that program was she needed to do community service and other things, but she was having everything handed to her, and it was hers to keep and to not mess up, but with the Lord's help. So she has completed her freshman year. I talked to her in the middle of May, and it was a Wednesday night. She was on FaceTime with one of our other moms, and she said, I'm headed to worship and praise, and I'm all excited. And she looked glowing and radiant, and only God could take her from that mama that walked through the door at 3 months pregnant to who she is now, still a mama with a baby in heaven. But those are the types of things we get to witness. So, yeah, it is only God's work. So I'll show you a couple more pictures from the house. We do love the babies, we do. But we love the mamas just as much, if not more, because they're the ones who are really changing their lives, and we pray a lot. Okay, I'll say this. I know I'm going over time a little bit, so, but we pray with a different type of authority than what we did going into the ministry. And I believed in God's power before. I've seen him work. I've seen him produce miracles. I've seen him heal. But there is a battle that is very intense for these mamas' lives and for their babies' futures. And we are standing in the gap, well, for each other as staff, and we have almost 30 volunteers, but standing in the gap for these moms who don't even know yet that there is a battle. And then, we're trying to talk with them about lies that we believe and how to break those generational lies. And prayer is key. So if you would do anything for Zoe House, would you pray? We need it more than anything else that you could possibly do. And there are weeks and days that when I really don't ask because I don't want to know, but I think, what else could happen? I mean, it's that intense sometimes. And it's, you guys know, I'm preaching to the choir. A couple of fast facts that I may not have covered. We do try to help the moms with life skills, and we do mentoring with them one-on-one. We're talking to them about budgeting and finances and parenting and cooking and cleaning, and they do help with meals. They help keep the house clean. We have partnerships with licensed faith-based therapists because we believe that's really an important key to what is happening and what God is doing. Ongoing spiritual conversations for sure, Bible study, church on Sundays. And again, we're not trying to just check the box, okay? It's so much more than that. Coaching and how to secure resources, because we know that when they leave, they have to know how to navigate the world. They have to know who to call, where to go, how do they find childcare, and before they leave, they should have SNAP, Link, WIC, all of it. They should, they have medical cards. So we help them if they don't have it when they come in. We provide all of their transportation when they're with us. That's a lot of what volunteers do. We have partnerships with area churches for meals and building healthy relationships and things like that. It is this amazing thing that we get to be a part of, is what I would say. And one more quick thing. I just had an email yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, from a mom who came to us at 16. She was barely 16, and she had her baby while she was with us. She finished high school 3 weeks after her baby was delivered with a 3.8 GPA. Yeah, she's been going to Heartland Community College. She has her own apartment now, and she just reached out because she said she lost her job where she was, and she was asking if I could give her referrals and things like that. She had reached out when her baby turned 1 because she said, I can't find a venue for, first birthday party. And I said, oh, we could help with that. We would love to celebrate a first birthday. So what I have found out is that even while the moms are with us, great, we build relationships, we're really close with them, but there's an ongoing relationship. I don't think it will ever be done, and it changes. Of course, it changes after they move out. The resources are not quite the same. We do offer all the wipes and diapers and all of the things they might possibly need while they're with us, and We have supplied a few more after they've been gone, but it's the emotional and spiritual support after they're gone. They'll reach out and say, this happened or that happened, or, my mom passed, and we try to pray and walk them through that. So lots of information this morning. And if you have questions, I think we'll have time for questions later, but thank you for all that you have been doing, all that God is going to keep doing in the future. And it's a privilege to partner with you and to let God make Zoe House a reality. So thank you.